Seramai 10 lelaki ahli kumpulan Vicky Naidu yang dipercayai mendalangi pelbagai jenayah sejak 2014 didakwa di Mahkamah Seksyen Ipoh atas pertuduhan menganggotai kumpulan jenayah terancang.
Good morning, Council. We are here today to hear 8 criminal applicants for bail filed of 8 men: Antiran, son of Durasami; Ganesan, son of Durasami; Velmurugan, son of Panirasilvam, and 5 other co-accused. The background of this matter is as follows. Each of the 8 applicants is charged under Section 130V, subsection 1 of the Penal Code for allegedly being a member of an organised criminal group known as Kumpulan Vicky Naidu. Under this section, any individual found to be a member of such group face a term of imprisonment of no less than 5 years and no more than 20 years. Because these charges are classified as security offences under the first schedule of the Security Offences Special Measures Act 2012 (SOSMA), the issue of bail is governed by the strict provisions of Section 13 of SOSMA. Generally, Section 31 states that bail shall not be granted to a person charged with a security offences. The public prosecutor opposed these applications on 2 primary grounds. First, that this is a second application for bail, suggesting the court may be functions official, and second, that these applicants as men do not qualify for the limited exceptions provided under Section 13(2) of SOSMA. Counsel for the applicants, you have moved this court for a constitutional review of this restriction. You may proceed with your arguments.
Much obliged, my lord. I appear today for the 8 applicants. Our primary submission is the Section 13 subsection 2 paragraph B of SOSMA is unconstitutional as it creates an unlawful and discriminatory classification based on gender. My lord, Section 13 subsection 2 allows these 3 categories of a person to apply for bail: those under 18, the sick or infirm, and women. My clients are men. They are charged with the exact same crime as any hypothetical female member of this criminal group might be. Yet, because of their gender, they are denied the right to even seek bail. First, violation of Article 8, which is equality. We submit that this violation, Article 8 of the Federal Constitution. Article 8, Clause 1 guarantees that all persons are equal before the law and entitled to equal protection. Crucially, Article 8, Clause 2 was amended in the 2002 to expressly prohibit discrimination on the grounds of gender. There is no logical reason or intelligible differential to suggest that a woman is inherently safer to be released on bail than men when both are accused of the same gang-related activities. Second, the scope of Article 149, the respondent will likely argue that SOSMA is a security law protected by Article 149. However, we draw my lord's attention to the specific text of Article 149 Clause 1. It allows Parliament to pass laws that are inconsistent with Article 5, 9, 10 or 13. Article 8 is conspicuously absent from that list. This is an intentional omission by the framers of the Constitution. Therefore, any law enacted under Article 149, including SOSMA, must still remain consistent with the right to equality under Article 8. Third, meaningful rights and liberal interpretation in line with the precedent in the case of Lee Kuan Yew against public prosecutor. The fundamental liberties in our constitution must be interpreted liberally to make them meaningful rather than merely theoretical. A right to personal liberty under Article 5 is meaningless if can be stripped away through a discriminatory bail policy that targets only one gender. Fourth, harmonious construction. Finally, my lord, we urge the court to apply the principle of harmonious construction. If Section 13, subsection 2, paragraph B is interpreted literally, it creates a constitutional absurdity. To ensure SOSMA works in harmony with the supreme law, this court should interpret the word woman in that section to include men.
Alright, may it please the court. My name is Muhammad Johan bin Muhammad Johari, appearing for the public prosecutor. We move to have these applications dismissed in their entirety. Number one, that the court is functions officio. My lord, the applicants have already sought bail before this court. The applications were dismissed by Justice Muhammad Razi Harun. Under Section 278 of the Criminal Procedure Code, this court has already recorded its judgment and cannot alter or review the same. This matter is res judicata. Number two, the validity of Section 13 SOSMA. On the substantive constitutional point, we rely on the decision in Suresh Kumar against public prosecutor. The court there held that Article 149 clause 1F validates that security laws, even if they infringe upon fundamental liberties, Parliament has the sovereign power to determine the limits of bail in cases involving national security and organized crime. Number three is reasonable classification. We strongly dispute that this is unlawful discrimination, as in the federal court in public prosecutor against Hong Teng Hen and Dato' Haji Harun Idris against public prosecutor established that the law can classify persons into groups such as men and women as long as it is based on a reasonable classification. Parliament has chosen to exclude men from all insecurity cases because of the high risk that they pose to public order in the context of organized crime. And conversely, women are often seen as vulnerable class in detention. We have also submitted reports from the Law and Justice Commission of Pakistan and OHCHR which detail the specific hardships women face in prison. This is not discrimination, as it is a protective measure for a vulnerable gender in our society. Number four is rejection of basic structure doctrine, that the applicants argue that the court's judicial power to grant bail under Article 121 has been taken away. However, this court is bound by the federal court's decision in Goh Leong Yong, which explicitly rejected the basic structures doctrine as a means to strike down legislation. Parliament is entitled to set statutory limits on judicial discretion and that the court must respect the separation of powers.
I have heard the initial argument from both sides regarding the constitutionality of Section 13 and the preliminary objection of functions official. There is much for court to consider, specifically regarding the intersection of Article 8 and 149. We shall take a brief recess. When we return, I will have specific questions for both counsel regarding the intelligible differential of gender and the alleged jurisdictional omission in the previous bail hearing. Before we proceed to final rebuttal, I have several points that require clarification. Deputy Public Prosecutor, you argued earlier that the classification of women as a protected class is reasonable classification, founded on intelligible differential. You cited report from Pakistan and the OHCHR regarding the vulnerability of the women in prison. My question is this: is there any evidence before this court to safely conclude that the conditions of prisons in Malaysia for women are so much worse than those for men, so as to justify depriving men of the right to apply for bail while granting it to women?
My lord, the state does not have specific comparative evidence for Malaysian correctional facilities at this stage. However, our submission is that the legislative intent of Parliament in Section 13(2)(b) of SOSMA was to acknowledge a universal gender-based vulnerability.
But DPP, if the reason for the law is that women are vulnerable, then that reason is exposed to logic. Tested against the maxim cessante rational legis cessa ipsa lex, when the reason for the law cease, the law itself should cease. If women are equally capable of being member of an organized criminal group like Kumpulan Vicky Naidu, then why does the law assume they are less of a risk or more deserving of liberty than men?
My Lord, we believe that the distinction is a matter of policy that the court should not disturb under the separation of powers.
Now, counsel for the applicant, you rely on the federal court's decision in Koh Chin Wah against public prosecutor, where a man was granted bail for security offence. However, the DPP correctly points out that no written grounds were provided for that decision. How can this court rely on a silent precedent to override the express wording of Section 13 of SOSMA?
My Lord, the fact remains that the apex court did grant bail to a male applicant charged with a security offence. By analogy to the case of public prosecutor against Muhammad Razi Abu Bakar, when there are multiple inferences, the court must draw the one most favourable to the accused. The only logical inference from the case of Koh Chin Wah is that the judiciary does have the power to grant bail to men in these cases, notwithstanding the literal text of Section 13. Much obliged, my Lord. I wish to address the respondent claim that the court is functus official. While a previous application for bail was indeed dismissed, we submit that a jurisdictional omission occurred. In the hearing before Justice Muhammad Razi Harun, the issue of whether a man should be entitled to bail like a woman under Article 8 was never discussed or decided upon. So the previous court only looked at whether the applicants were sick or infirm. Following the principle in Milan Auto Sedian Berhad and Wong Seh Yen, a court that inadvertently fails to carry out its basic duty to address a constitutional breach has not fulfilled its fundamental functions. Therefore, this court is at liberty to hear these fresh applicants. Furthermore, my Lord, we must look at the Dangerous Drug Act DDA in Section 41 capital B subsection 1 of the DDA. Bail is restricted for all genders equally. If a woman is charged with drug trafficking, she is denied bail even if she is pregnant, as seen in the case of public prosecutor against Chiu Siu. If the DDA, a law equally critical to national security, can maintain safety without gender discrimination, SOSMA discriminatory policy is revealed to be irrational and unconstitutional.
My Lord, the applicant's comparison to the DDA is misplaced. Parliament has the right to tailor security measures to the specific nature of the crime. On the constitutional point, we maintain that Article 1491F is a complete answer. It validates laws even if they are inconsistent with Articles 5, 9, 10 or 13. The applicant argues that Article 8 was omitted from that list, but we submit that the power to restrict personal liberty under Article 5 nationally encompasses the power to set the terms of that restriction, including who is eligible for bail. This court is bound by majority in Goh Leong Yong, in which settled that the basic structure doctrine has no place in Malaysian jurisprudence. To rewrite women to include men is not interpretation, it is judicial legislation. So we ask the court to respect the legislative choice in order to keep these 8 men in detention for protection of public order.
I have carefully considered the extensive arguments presented. On the preliminary issues of function official, I find that this court is not functions official. The failure of the earlier court to decide whether these applicants were discriminated against in breach of Article 8 constitute a jurisdictional omission. This is a recognized exception to the rule of res judicata, and thus this court is at liberty to consider these applications fresh. Secondly, on the constitutionality of Section 13 of SOSMA, I agree with the decision in Suraj Kumar against Public Prosecutor that SOSMA was validly enacted under Article 149. However, I hold that while Article 149 allows for the exclusion of Article 5, 9, 10 and 13, the fundamental liberty of equality under Article 8 is conspicuously not included in that class of excluded liberties. By the maxim expressio unius as exclusio alterius, laws made under Article 149 cannot be inconsistent with the right to equality. Thirdly, on gender discrimination, there is no intelligible differential to justify why men should be barred from bail when women charged with the same security offence are not. Women are as equally capable of committing security offences as men. To allow one gender bail while denying another without a rational or reasonable classification files in the face of the Constitutional Amendment of 2001, which introduced gender into Article 8, Section 2. Fourth, the interpretation. To ensure a harmonious construction that avoid absurdity, I rule that word woman shall be interpreted to include men. Fifth, the order for bail. Accordingly, I grant the applications. Each of the 8 applicants is granted bail in the sum of 13,000 with 2 local sureties. However, the given nature of charges under Section 130V of the Penal Code, the following strict conditions are imposed. 1. Each applicant must be attached with electronic monitoring device EMD on the leg at all the time. 2. The passport and travel documents must be surrendered to the court. 3. Applicants are strictly forbidden from communicating with witness or their families. 4. Applicant must report to their nearest police station once a week. And 5. All movement will be tracked and retained as official records. Failure to comply with any conditions or any tampering with the EMD will result in immediate revocation of bail. Court is dismissed.